Welcome to Rugby Uncovered. Our guest this week is Denis Nolan. He's a vastly experienced referee and chairman of the Dorset and Wiltshire Rugby Football Union. It's also a call for anybody thinking about being a referee. And if you hadn't thought about it, then maybe think about it now, especially if you're a lady. There's plenty of support. See the description for further links and details. Welcome to the show, Denis.
Oh, thanks so much. Nice to be speaking to you both.
It's great to have you on the show. Could you tell us how you got involved in rugby and then in refereeing?
Well, I started playing rugby way back. I mean, I've been involved since about 1973, I think. No, even maybe before that. And I never played at school. My school didn't play the game, but a lot of my pals played for the local club here. And I went down, and my brother had played for another club nearby, which was mainly from people he knew. So I went to Swansea Wareham, my home club, and I really loved it. I just loved the fun. 1980, left this area, went to London, played rugby continuously there till about 1990, when injury sort of stopped me keeping fit enough to play, but I could referee. So that's when I started refereeing, and it was around that time, late 80s, 90s. I started refereeing, and then sort of it's continued from there. And unfortunately, fitness again due to the operation, I left refereeing and became an advisor, or what's now called a match official developer. So I watch games and I watch referees in action and write reports on them. And that's taken me there. I came back to Dorset 10, 11 years back and settled back here. And now I'm chairman of Dorset Wilts Referee Society.
So being a referee is a difficult position to be in, because at the end of any match, nobody ever says, wow, what a brilliant ref. And everyone's kind of biased to one side or the other, aren't they?
It can get like that. It's strange, because if you give it a little while to calm down afterwards, then you can get good conversations. New referees to speak to players after the game, from either side where possible. And a lot of players and coaches are only too willing to have their say, so you let them do that. And then I think they respect the referees more for it.
Yes.
That they can go and have a chat. They're out of the pressure of the 80 minutes of rugby. They've calmed down. Referees calmed down. The referee may have had his words with the assessor or advisor, and it's a much more relaxed atmosphere. And I was going to say over a pint, but now it's over a soft drink or
yes,
whatever it may be. But, yes, so that's the thing. There are times it doesn't quite work like that, but mainly as a whole, the referees are looking to help and find out more about where they can improve. So by speaking to the front rows, speaking to the back rows, etc., you will find out little ways to improve your own game as well as improve the game for the 30 guys playing.
We had Sarah Cox on the show, and she explained the level of scrutiny under which referees are under. And I was absolutely shocked and surprised how, first of all, how much data is collected and how much scrutiny goes into the decisions that are made afterwards. Because it's all well and good being on the side of a match, watching a game and having a perspective, but it's very, very different what you can tell us about that, being actually on the pitch and having to make those split-second decisions. Because very often when someone's commentating from the sides, they've had a better time to reflect, but the referee doesn't get that time.
Yeah. I mean, Sarah's right up there. She's right at the top of the tree, really. And the thing is that you get time to look afterwards. But again, it is for the advisors. They're looking at it and they're trying to follow the game. And if there's patterns, I think we're looking for, if somebody's consistently doing the same thing, then you can put that to them and see if they see it in the same way as you do, or what was the reasoning for their positioning such and such throughout the game. So, it's a lot of feedback, and I think it's important to have a conversation afterwards rather than just a school teacher.
Yes.
You and the referee will have a chat, and sometimes what they've done makes perfect sense when they explain it. But somebody at Sarah's level, most of their games will be videoed, and they'll get a timeline breakdown of their game. Well, at the local level, grassroots level, we can't always get the man with the video for Dorset and Wilts to go and watch a game that may be way up in the north of Wiltshire or way down on the south of Dorset. So we haven't got the same facilities, and we're working on sort of our natural resources there.
Yes. But the good thing about technology is getting cheaper and more accessible. So I guess that's something that could be done in the future.
It is. We have a cameraman with a nice setup, but just the one. A few of the clubs do video their games, and they will, if we ask, they'll give us a video of that. Or if the referee asks, they'll make sure a copy's free for him. And that's very important, I think. If it's there, we'll use it. And it works both ways, doesn't it?
Yes,
it helps
indeed.
them and it will help the players. Anything that helps the referee improve will help the players in the end.
Yes, absolutely. Because the players and indeed the clubs are just looking for consistency, aren't they? They want to know what the ref wants and how they're interpreting the laws so they can play to their strategies.
Yes, that's it. But it is consistency for that game on that day. Does the weather affect the way games go? And maybe somebody gets injured early on. So there's a consistency that you're looking for on the day in question. Sometimes you can't be consistent week in, week out. You've got to be flexible to fit the situation. I think that's what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah. It's and in the end, you're a human being. You're not a computer, so things will vary.
Yes, yeah, they do
inevitably. So Tom, let's bring you in.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Tom.
I was lucky enough to chat to you the other day, and really what Paul touched on, I wanted to know, when we spoke with Sarah, whether there are any differences in her approaches to a men's and a women's game. What's your perspective on this? Are you looking out for different things? Is refereeing a women's game a different experience for you compared with a men's?
I haven't done a great deal of women's refereeing. I've advised quite a few. But I think there is generally a little more empathy with the ladies' game. I see across the board. I mean, I've been lucky enough. We tend to get the up-and-coming sort of referees with potential reffing the better games in the county for the ladies, and they're very good, and they read the game and they give the ladies time and space to move on and create rugby as we want it to be played, as we want it to be seen. If you're covering a male game, perhaps you're a bit harsher on them than you are on the ladies. Perhaps that's wrong, I don't know, but you're trying to create a game for 30 people to be playing in, and sometimes you just got to hold your breath on the whistle to allow it a little longer to develop. That's it. I might be wrong.
You mentioned empathy. Do you notice a difference between male and female referees when they're refereeing women?
No.
Right.
No.
Okay. That's good, because women are usually better at that stuff than men.
Women are better?
Better at that stuff, the empathy, than men on the whole.
Oh, I don't know. I think whoever it is, they're there to do their job. They want to do it to the best of their ability. And we want to see empathy throughout the game to allow the game to work. You don't want whistle-happy referees. Which then destroys a game. It's no fun for the players, no fun for spectators. I'm sure it can't be fun for a referee. So you've got to bring empathy into the game.
Okay, you said recently that you're seeing a very healthy interest being shown in refereeing by youngsters, and I gather that this number has increased quite significantly in the last 5-10 years. How do you explain that?
I think it's the role models they're seeing now. People are seeing the likes of Wayne Barnes, Pierce, Sarah, Nigel Owen. I know Nigel's and Wayne don't thank me for this, but slightly older now, but they've come through joining the refereeing fraternity as youngsters, and people are thinking, well, perhaps that is for me. Perhaps if I'm not going to make it as a player, I can make it as a referee, because they love the game, and then they come along and they try it, enjoy it, and just continue through there. And there's a lot of fun to be had through refereeing. It's quite a close knit community, and when you get in amongst it, it's quite good fun.
Sure. And in Dorset and Wiltshire, what's the proportion of girls and women to boys and men?
At the moment, we've got two ladies. One has had to cut down a lot on her commitment to refereeing due to work. She's all over Europe with her work, and sort of to come home to a Saturday or a Sunday is a shame. Another one's in the military, and she's not always in this area, and it's a real shame. As for young male referees, we got a young match officials team, which I think is about 6 strong at the moment, and there's a few others who are under, so around the 21 mark, who are coming through strongly. So that's the promising side, but I would dearly love to have more female referees. And we in Dorset Mills, if somebody does a referees course, we will pay for it after they've done 5 games for the society. It would be nice getting younger ladies, younger girls through to come and referee. So that you could sort of say, well, we've started this lady out at 17, 18 years old, and we've she's worked up the ranks with us to be a level 7 or level 6 referee. It would be good to be able to do that. It's just getting some lady refs in place, really.
It's developing the women's game in general, I think, in the way that football has. Paul touched on it. When you'd finished playing, you were determined to go into refereeing. You didn't want to become a coach.
I don't think I'd be patient enough as a coach. It's a lot, and to manage 15, 20 people every weekend, there's a lot more to it or I felt there'd be a lot more to it. And although I feel as though I know the game well, I don't think it's something that's for me. I'd be very frustrated. Whereas as a referee, everything I do or did was under my own sort of volition.
Yeah. We're in perhaps the most unusual period since organised sport began, including world wars. Do you see this as a time when changes, however minor, might benefit the game, men's and women's?
I think there will have to be some changes. Whether they benefit the game, I'm not so sure. The traditionalists will not want to see the scrum interfered with anymore, but it may need to have the scrum interfered with more just to get us back playing rugby. Although seeing how the New Zealand season has started, there's not a great deal of change there. There's a few law differences and interpretation, but they managed to keep things as the game has been for the past 20, 25 years around the scrum and lineouts and things. But there may have to be, and that's got to be looked at, because we must get back playing rugby, or playing all sport and opening all business. It's not, the world's not just rugby.
Equally, any changes don't have to be permanent, do they? It could be made clear that this is, that for obvious reasons, this is going to be what happens for the next year, and then if it doesn't work, by way of a trial, we return to the way things were. And there's always that possibility, isn't there?
Yes, I think it's good, and there has been experimental law changes in the past, and I think there'd be a good time to do something like that. You've got a good point there.
And there are, we said, you and I the other day, there are ways that the game can be enhanced, can be improved in minor ways, and this is surely a good opportunity to do that.
It's how far you go, isn't it? It's because the guys, whether they be players, referees, whatever, they've all got to take this on board and go through the system, and it's got to be filtered into the clubs. And what rugby is important about is the sort of the laws for the top are meant to be the same as the laws for the bottom. So it's not just about England versus Ireland. It's like, take examples here. Swansea will Barham thirds versus Wimborne thirds, and they've got to adapt those laws themselves. But it would be good. With plenty of notice, certainly the infrastructure around the webinars they've been having, the RFP been putting out, with plenty of education on it in good time, then yes, things could be done. But in what way would you be looking at, is what can dictate sometimes, and getting players into the game or putting players off when we want to get as many people back as soon as possible can be by changing the game too much, you know.
Yeah. You make a very good point. Michel Platini, when there was talk a long time ago of filming live play to check on certain things, he said that the game in the park should be the same as the game played in the World Cup final. And I think he was right. I think certainly in the case of football, it's become too pernickety to the point of boredom. I really believe that. And let's hope that rugby doesn't do that.
Yeah, you got to hope, you know. And I've been watching some of this football, and there was something the other night, and you thought, how on earth did you get that decision? And it's taken to the nth degree, and the guys down in, as you say, in the local park just can't relate to that at all. I can understand what you're saying there. Yeah, and I think we're trying to avoid that. You know, we've got the cameras, we got the things in place for the big games, and yeah, there's still going to be mistakes, but we're trying to eradicate mistakes, which is important.
Yeah, just before you sign off, Dennis, something that you mentioned earlier about community is so important because it's a recurring theme that we're hearing. We heard it when we spoke to Sarah. We hear it when we speak to you. We heard it from the coaches, from the players and everyone else. And it's what makes rugby a special game because everybody seems to be part of the community. And when it comes to being a referee, what Tom and I were looking at when we started covering rugby was we thought we'd like to talk to the referees after the match as well, because it's great getting the coaches and it's really great, obviously, speaking to the players. But we'd like to hear the perspective of how the ref thought the game went and, talk about certain decisions too. I think that could be part of the reason why other people, wouldn't necessarily think of refereeing at the first instance. There needs to be more promotion of what the referee actually does.
I think that wouldn't be a bad idea, to be honest. You're talking about televised matches, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, it could be any, really.
You come to any club, community club. The referee's there. He'll be having a beer and a pie, and he'll be chatting. Very, very rare does the ref shoot off straight away unless he's got a work commitment or something like that. And we've got some really good lads who will, stay discussing things for ages with the sides after the game, and they're quite well known about the clubs, But obviously it's a smaller pool here, but they'll go, oh, we've got so-and-so this week, we'll chat with him about that, or we saw him the other day, he was very good, or very poor, whatever their score was. And but like I said, they're encouraged to interact. We try and get into the youngsters as much as possible, speak to the experienced prop. He will tell you so much about his game that you can't see as a 17-year-old having just left school and you played on the wing for all your career at school. It's the way it is, It's if you go to any club, community club on a Saturday, you'll get that type of behaviour. They're very, very willing to speak.
Yes,
providing people are positive.
Yeah.
And not the normal sort of la-di-da, you did this, you ruined my game type of thing. We don't want to know about that.
No, but
be positive.
Yeah,
and you'll get a positive conversation back.
Absolutely, but what I meant was actually for the televised audience. And Tom and I were talking about how we wanted to talk more to referees during the match, or obviously after the matches that were played, and we noticed that with Rugby X, they decided to do that. And I thought that was refreshing that you got a perspective. I think they did it with Rugby X because it's such a new game and they wanted to kind of reinforce some of the rules that are obviously a lot simpler than Rugby 15s. But it would be really nice to get a perspective from the referee at the end of the game as to how he or she thinks it has gone, and maybe to be asked questions about how certain decisions went etc., all in a positive way, just to throw light on what the referee's actually doing and thinking. Because I think that way people will see that role as something that perhaps they might want to do in the future.
Yeah. I'm not sure how we could get that to be done, or I could get that to be done at my level. I could throw it into a conversation with people, but it's I don't know. Yeah. I don't think it's certainly not the worst idea in the world.
No, I mean, Tom and I were just thinking of like nabbing a referee just after a game and saying, how do you think it went? And, and just trying an interview. But to get a perspective at the moment, it's like the game finishes. And from a fan's point of view, that's it. It's done. And whatever decisions were made. And the players will tell you how they felt about the game, whether they're happy or whether they're disappointed. But it's another perspective. And what we found in other sports is the level, and you touched upon it, Denis, when you said that the level of experience that the referee will have in terms of analysing the game can bring a different level of enjoyment to it, because you can see things from a different perspective that perhaps the armchair viewer didn't see, and so it can reveal, it can enhance the sport potentially. But it is a relatively new idea. But and it's partly why obviously we're talking to you today, because we'd like to hear from more referees.
I don't know how I could do that. I can think on how I could do that. But certainly, putting something like that to the TV people, Sky and BT, and saying, look, this is what people want, because I'm sure it would enhance the enjoyment of the game for people. And a lot of the general spectators who watch rugby aren't aware of the laws or get confused by the laws. And even now, we have long conversations about a point of law, and you think, well, this is mad. It's, interpretation and things like that. But it's certainly something that could be looked at, I would think. But whether the TV companies want to show that with any enthusiasm, and whether they would want to fit that into their schedules, I don't know.
Yes, you make a point there that they're the ones that have to make that decision. So if there's a young man or young woman listening today thinking, I would like to have a go at being a referee, how would they go about? Who do they call? Can they call you? Who's their first port of call?
They can call me, by all means. I'm always willing to take calls or emails. They can look on the England Rugby website, the Keep Your Boots On website, and there'll be courses there. And like I said, with Endorsement Wilts, we will refund the price of the course when they've done 5 games for us. Right? And some have done it, and a lot have just done the course and go on with it. And even to the point, clubs that pay for people from their club to go and do the course, which is very encouraging. For some, if they're not sure on it, they could be club refs for a while. Just read the World Rugby laws and the head case laws, which are both online, and go and become a club referee and just get used to do it with youngsters on a Sunday morning, see if they enjoy refereeing, and then come back to me, or obviously wherever they are, their local society. And then once they've done their level 2 referees course, we'll get them games. And after 5 games, they get graded, they get given kit, they seem to get everything nowadays, and we'll get them out, and an assessor will watch them and offer them tips, and depending on millions of other things, how quickly they develop. We've recently had a 19-year-old go up to Southwest Group. So that's quite a big jump from community level. It's the next level up, really. And he had a coach. He's got better, stronger coach now. And, just hopefully for him, it's a big upward slope. But not everybody wants to do that. So I'm quite happy to stay in the community game and enjoy it there.
Yeah.
So by all means, if people want to contact, then contact me.
That's very generous of you. Thank you very much. And just one final point about in a post-COVID world where everybody's looking at budgets and wondering whether there's enough money for X, Y, and Z. I think it's really important to know what the role of sport really plays in the community. And I think given the amount of stress and strain that's been on various households, the best way to get rid of that is through sport. So sport, I think, is more important now than it's ever been, and it shouldn't be questioned. It shouldn't be a question of money, because it has such a wider implication for all communities. So if anything, more money should be put into it, not less.
You get no argument with me from that. Absolutely no.
Brilliant stuff.
It's also not a coincidence that apparently 1.3 million people have bought a bicycle in London in the last 2 months, 10 months. It's kind of COVID related, but it's, as Paul has just said, it's all sport related. And if it means people are getting more exercise, then great. Brilliant.
It is. It's got to be good, hasn't it? It's got to be a positive. And, and there'll be some wanting to play rugby. For what you're saying there about people need it. I remember going to a referee a game a good while back, and when I got there, it was the pitch absolutely fog bound. You couldn't see from end to end. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. It's top of the hill somewhere. And they said, we can't play in this. And the guys were just mortified. Their Saturday was absolutely ruined,
Yeah.
And there was a sense of anger because they couldn't play the game. And it was nobody's fault. It was just natural causes, And I will never forget that, because there were a few people I knew there who were quite calm, normal chaps. And Dennis is stupid. We must be able to play. But, you can't see a thing. I said, no, I know we can't, but it was. I've never known a day like it, but weather-wise. But so it's very, very important. Something I think, because it gives people that window. They're going out for 5 or 6 hours on a Saturday or Sunday, knowing they're going to play their game, chat with their mates, and have fun, then go back to normal life. So it is important that whatever sport it is, it's important people do something.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Denis, thank you so much for being so generous with your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And we will share the details of how to contact you with our listeners. So if you are listening, you want to be a referee, you're even thinking about it, there's your open opportunity. So please take it. So thanks once again, Denis, and stay safe. And we hope to see you very soon.
Yes, by all means. And thanks for inviting me onto your show.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Denis.
Cheers.
Bye now.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
And thank you so much for listening. And we'll catch you next time.